Hello my fellow engineers. When spare parts are running low and supply lines are cut, and you still need to get more firepower or support into the field, you need whatever you need to get your hands on. Sometimes that desperation leads to innovation, and what starts a new patch job becomes a whole new machine. Today, we're going to be talking about 5 mobile suits built from whatever parts were available and how each one became unique in its own way. In the OVA series 8th MS team, Shiro Amada was already piloting a Gundam from leftovers. The RX-79G, ground type, was assembled from spare parts left over from the RX-78 development line. But when your Gundam takes damage in the field, replacement parts aren't exactly waiting around in the corner for you. That's why so many ground types ended up as their own custom repairs or even have their own modifications. After Shiro's unit was heavily damaged in his battle against the Aspars too, the engineers and techs on site, well, they had to get creative, using whatever they could find, even salvage parts from Zeon mobile suits. They rebuilt his Gundam from the ground up. The result was the RX-79G EZ8, better known as the Gundam EZ8. Now, the Gundam EZ8 was based on the combat data gathered up to that point, alongside with direct feedback from Shiro Amada himself. The rebuild of the Gundam incorporated several key modifications, refining his design through hard-earned field experience. The EZ8's armor was completely reworked. Its chest plate was actually made from 2 Zaku II's shoulder shields welded together. It was a clever field solution that added durability while making maintenance pretty easier. And because of the constant damage sustained in the jungle combat, the Gundam's signature V-fin was replaced with a simple rod antenna on the right side of the head. Its snorkel camera was removed, being replaced by a twin 35mm Vulcan gun. And, well, since Luna Titanium wasn't always on hand, engineers reinforced the forehead and chin with extra plating. Now, despite being rebuilt from whatever parts were available, the EZ8 actually came out lighter without losing its durability. The improved power balance and refined armor layout gave it better mobility, stability, and even enhanced communication systems compared to the standard ground Gundam. In the end, the EZ8 wasn't just a repair job or some sort of patch job either. It was a modified Gundam that embodied the integrity and the resilience of the Kojima Battalion. Now on to the next mobile suit on the list. For the Zeon's ground forces, vehicles like the Magella attack tanks were originally deployed to support infantry as well as mobile suits in the field. But once the Federation began rolling out its own mobile suits, Zeon's armored division quickly found themselves outmatched, and worse, supply lines were being cut off. As the war dragged on, the Magella attack tanks struggled to stay effective against Federation suits, and Zeon's frontline units faced a critical shortage of replacements. Forced to make do with whatever they had on the field, engineers began salvaging damaged machines, tearing down wrecked mobile suits and tanks to create something that could still fight, as well as fill in the ranks. And the result of this was the MS-06V Zaku tank. It was a battlefield hybrid built by mounting a Zaku's torso, head, and arms onto a hull of a Magella attack tank. These improvised machines became invaluable to commanders desperate for reinforcements. It served in both combat and support roles. Because each one was built on site to fit local needs, there was never a uniform or standard design. Every Zaku tank was unique in its own right. Now, depending on what was available, the upper body could come from either a Zaku I or a Zaku II, leading to a countless of local variations. Some were configured for construction or supply duties, while others were armed for combat. Now, speaking being armed for combat, several Zaku tank cannon types mounted the 180mm cannon from the Zaku cannon, turning these hybrids into a makeshift artillery units capable of providing indirect fire support. They were a common sight throughout the Zeon's occupied territories, appearing in multiple campaigns from the jungles of the 8th MS team to the post-war world of Gundam Unicorn, often filling a vital support role long after the war even has ended. Even after the 1-year war, captured MS-06V Zaku tanks continued to serve, but at the Federation's bases worldwide, including Jaburo in South America. Built from scraps yet rolling into battle, the Zaku tank remains one of the best examples of Zeon's resourcefulness, and how necessity can turn desperation into innovation. And speaking of Zeon Zakus, during the 1-year war, particularly in the Gundam Requiem for Vengeance series, the most common unit fielded was the MS-06F Zaku II. Developed by the Zeon military and manufactured by the Zeon Company, the F-Type was the standard mass production model of the Zaku II line. Ace pilots were often allowed to customize their machines with unique color schemes, equipment layouts, and even extra armor, which led to countless field variations. Commander units typically featured a head-mounted communication antenna, which was a clear indicator of their role. One of the Ace pilot units allowed to customize their mobile suits was the Zeon's Red Wolf Squadron. Commanded by Solari, the squad was nearly wiped out during a brutal encounter with the RX-78G E Gundam EX, leaving only Solari and her squad mate, Lashan, alive. Their Zaku II F-Types were destroyed in the fight, completely being outmatched by the Gundam EX. Now being forced on the run, they took cover at the Brigade Support Command. It was a facility that functioned as a full-scale recycling center. The two pilots needed new machines to defend themselves, and in a place filled with scrap parts, wrecked frames, and discarded equipment, they found the perfect opportunity to do so. And I'm kind of going to be doing like a double whammy on this one, but using whatever components were available, the engineers on site managed to rebuild not one, but two completely new Zaku II machines from salvage. These became the MS-06 RB A Zaku II identified type and the MS-06 RB B Zaku II identified type, both custom-fielded built units built completely out of scraps. Both Zakus were assembled right there in the recycling center using whatever the engineer could salvage. Leftover Zaku II F-Type parts or mismatched components, or even pieces of the Magilla attack tanks. Despite being scrap built, each machine reflected the fighting style of its pilot. Solari's unit, which was the MS-06 RBA, featured a double armor shield mounted on the right shoulder. This setup combined two armor plates taken from other mobile weapons. The outer layer acted as a protection against the beam weapons, while the inner layer housed wired guided missiles for ambush-style attacks. Additional caterpillar trims were attached around the body to further reinforce the suits against incoming beam fire. As for Lashan's unit, the MS-06 RB-B carried a massive shield on the left arm, made from heavy plating armor salvaged from multiple mobile weapons. Both machines were fully capable of using the standard Zaku weapon loadouts, including machine guns, bazookas, and heat weapons. Now, even with their rebuilt mobile suits and improvised armor, both machines still carry the same general performance as the original Zaku II F-Types. And just like before, they struggled to inflict any meaningful damage on the Gundam's armor. Sure, these upgrades made them tougher and more versatile, but their Zakus were still ill-equipped to do anything to the Gundam. Up next, we're going to be jumping ahead to UC 0090, just right after the first Neo Zeon War. At Side 5, the Monotone Mouse Corporation was in the middle of repairing the war-damaged Texas colony when they were suddenly attacked by the New Summer Project's Colored Forces, a terrorist organization attempted to reunite another conflict. Caught in the chaos, Monotone Mouse employee Derry Neil Guns took matter into his own hands. Using a custom mobile worker he built from mobile suit junk parts, Derry deployed the MWS 19051G D Gundam, a machine intentionally styled after the legendary RX-78 Gundam. Now, this wasn't a true Gundam, but a custom-built mobile worker assembled by whatever components Derry could salvage, and being a Gundam fan, designed it after, well, the RX-78. Its internal movable frame and generator were pulled from a mobile suit wreckage left over from the first Neo Zeon War, giving it just enough mobility to stand up to actual combat situation. Now, despite its name and appearance, the D Gundam First wasn't heavily armed. In fact, it only carried a beam shotgun as its main offensive weapon. But for a machine using leftover parts and using a mobile worker as the main body, its performance was actually quite impressive. After its first battle, Derry had his mobile suit upgraded into the D Gundam II, improving its stability, performance, while still relying on salvage parts. The Federation later acquired the D Gundam II and used his data to perform a full overhaul, officially redesignating it as the D Gundam III. What began as a fan-built mobile worker didn't just become a functional combat machine, it grew into a worthy successor to the legend it was modeled after. Going down the Universal Century timeline, after the Earth Federation disbanded and Consent rose to power as the new governing force on Earth, mobile suit engineer John Xavier was horrified to see his own mobile suits, the Bugu, being used to tighten control over the populace. Refusing to be part of that oppression, John and his trusted engineering team defected, taking with them stolen development data as well as a stockpile of the RGM-196 Freedom mobile suits. Using the Freedom mobile suits as a foundation, John and his team began refining his systems and experimenting with new prototype technologies. All of that research, stolen data, and salvage hardware ultimately came together into the creation of a new, highly adaptable mobile suit, the G-Savior. Around 82% of the G-Savior's internal components came from pre-existing mobile suits of that era, making it a true product of salvage engineering. Its EFX-8 cockpit included a full life support system capable of keeping a pilot alive for up to 72 hours, and at full output, the suit can maintain a maximum performance for 42 minutes, already outperforming most of Constant's mass production mobile suits. The G-Savior was built around a skeletal movable frame designed specifically to support interchangeable mission modules. This allowed the suit to swap between configurations for space and ground combat. The frame also let it inject armor segments, which was a life-saving feature if the suit's limbs were ever to become trapped or entangled. Without any of them equipped, the suit operated in its baseline configuration known as the G-Savior Origin Mode. Thanks to his quick swap modular design, the G-Savior could adapt to a wide range of combat scenarios with remarkable versatility. Thanks to his changing modular configurations, the G-Savior became a decisive asset during the Battle of Gaia, adapting on the fly as the fight evolved. Working alongside with his sister machines, the I-Savior, it helped turn the tide of the battle. And that wraps up today's video, and honestly, it kind of blew my mind a bit that the EZ8 uses some Zaku parts on his chest, and it kind of fits the, I could probably say it kind of fits Shiro Amada in a way, since he doesn't want to kill any Zeon forces, so it's kind of like a little poetic. As well as the Zaku's used in Requiem of Vengeance, they were using the actual Magella attack tanks as extra layers of armor, basically. I thought that was pretty neat. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe for more Gundam content. Farewell, my fellow engineers.